well, that would be nice, but that's not me. Things are expensive in this world, so expensive. It's just not like that. That's not the reality. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's Farah. So today I'm going to be doing a little life update video, but very much focused on my first home. A lot of you will already know, if you've seen the other videos on my channel, that I bought my very first property around 18 months ago now. So a whole year and a half has passed, and I feel like throughout this whole process I've learnt so much. I think in the initial videos that I posted and filmed for my channel to do with this topic, even since then I've learnt so much, and I think I'm in a much better position now to kind of give you an overall picture and kind of the lessons that I've learned and just where I'm up to now, almost 2 years later. So I thought this would be a really good time to film this video and just give you guys a little bit more insight on what it's like to buy a first property and all the things that come with it, especially if you're someone that is a similar age to me and you're kind of wanting to get on the property ladder and you don't really quite know where to start or what to expect from the process. So yeah, if that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, definitely keep on watching. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel down below as well for more videos like this. And yeah, with all that being said, let's get straight into the video. Okay guys, so if you haven't seen my previous videos of my flat tour and when I've talked about moving out as an unmarried brown girl, then you're definitely going to want to watch those videos for a bit of context in terms of like the whole background and my story of me moving out. I'm just going to delve straight into the things that I've kind of learned and kind of the general process and what I've been through in the past 18 months, just to give you a bit more insight and a heads up if you're planning to go through the same thing. But just in case you don't know, I do live in a flat, and it is a 2-bedroom flat, and I live by myself. The first thing, I don't even know where this has kind of come from, but I feel like since I bought my first property, and then I've also been looking at trying to get a second one under my belt and just kind of carrying on that investment process, I've realized that this process of buying properties, and even maybe selling, takes a really long time. Like, it's a really long drawn out process. There's a lot of people that have to get involved, and because of that, the whole process just drags on a lot longer than you would expect it to. So for me, when I was in the initial stages of like putting in the offer to actually like having the offer accepted, then exchanging and completing right at the end to be able to get the keys to the property, I think the whole process took about 4 or 5 months for me in total. So right from me getting my offer accepted, even putting the offer in, all the way up to actually getting the keys, I think it was about 5 months. Now, when you're in that process, that doesn't even sound that long, like talking about it now, but when I was in it, and I was also given a lot of false promises at the beginning from my solicitor. I have a whole video on my channel all about the shambles of a solicitor that I had. So if you're interested in hearing about that, definitely click up here or up here and I'll put the video link for you. But she did give me a lot of false promises in terms of the timescales for when things would be completed and when I could actually think about moving in. And obviously I was very naive. It was the first time I'd ever done something like this, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really understand like why things were taking so long, and it really frustrated me and stressed me out at the time. Also, as someone that's kind of doing it all by themselves and also working full-time, and kind of got 2 full-time jobs on the go with me doing social media content creation as well, it was just very stressful. And it's very stressful in general doing something that you're not really familiar with and something that you've never done before. So I was very extra stressed at that point because I just thought things should be moving a lot quicker than they were, and I was just very frustrated by the whole process right at the beginning. Now in hindsight, I know now that that is just the process. That is just how long it takes. It doesn't really matter what you do or how hard you try to expedite it. Also, side note, I did buy this property in the middle of COVID, so that did have an impact on like the length of time it took to do surveys and things like that. So in general, like the process takes its time. You have to get your mortgage accepted, so you're working with the bank, then your solicitor has to contact surveyors and the vendor and lots of different people to make sure all the documentation is in place. They also have to get the actual property registered in your name legally. Then the surveyors obviously have to do their job and come into the property, and then the solicitor also has to work with the bank to make sure the money is transferred correctly and everyone gets paid on time and things are done in advance before the keys are then arranged to be collected. So there's lots of different pieces of the puzzle, and I don't particularly think it should take as long as it actually does, but it does take that long, and it's just something that you kind of have to accept in the beginning. So I wish I kind of went into it almost knowing that it was going to be a long drawn out process and just kind of having that acceptance of it. So if I had any advice for you, don't expect things to be done speedy pace, even if you're kind of promised that in the beginning. Just kind of take things as they come. It doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to fall through or things aren't going to work out. It just means that sometimes that's how long the process takes, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. I think also an additional factor was that this was a leasehold property, so there was way more documentation and just confirmation that they had to do with the service companies, and then also the person that owns the lease. So yeah, there was a lot to be done, and I think if I'd kind of, yeah, just acknowledged that a bit better at the beginning, I would have been far less stressed by the whole process. So looking back, I definitely could have saved myself a tear or two. Okay, so moving swiftly on to my next point, I think touching on the leasehold thing. So this is something that I did know at the beginning, but I think once I've been here for almost 2 years now, so I've been paying these costs and yeah, experiencing this for almost 2 years, and the cost of a leasehold is significantly more than what you would pay if you were in a freehold property. Now, if you're not familiar with the two, essentially a leasehold is when you buy a lease. So you only have it for a certain amount of years before you have to renew the lease or sell it on or whatever you choose to do, whereas a freehold property is just yours for life, like you completely own it. Whereas a leasehold property, you don't own it, you just have bought a lease on that property and you're essentially paying them to lease it. And the leases do last a really long time, like over 100 years, so it's more than enough years for your lifetime. So that's not really the concern, but the concern is the extra costs that come with that, because not only do you have to pay the rent for the lease, you also have to pay service charges, because especially in an apartment complex as well, they're typically leasehold properties, someone has to pay for the communal areas of like running the whole property, not just that you're flat within that property. So they have to pay to make sure that's clean and tidy. They also pay for a lot of other things like window cleaning and tidying up like bushes and like the garden area, all the areas that kind of is not owned by any individual person living in the flat, is taken care of by the service, like the management company of the property. And as someone that owns one of the apartments, you're responsible for paying a contribution towards that. So all these costs do add up, and they are more so than you would have to pay if you were in a freehold property, because you wouldn't have these extra costs. You just kind of pay for what you think you need. So that's obviously something that I did know going into it, but I think going forward, unless you know that you're going to be making a lot of money on the property, which I know that I will be for this one, so it's okay, but I just think for anyone else, if you're planning to pay a lot of money for an apartment or flat or a leasehold property, whatever it is, make sure that there's good reason for that, and that you're either going to make good money when you end up selling it on, or you're comfortable knowing that you're going to be paying way more than you probably need to if you just chose a freehold property. So yeah, that's definitely something that I would consider, and something that I'm also, it's just something in the back of my mind even more so now when I look to buy a second property, because I don't want to have to pay extra money than I shouldn't really need to pay, if that makes sense. And having to pay that chunk of money month on month for the past year and a half, it's just solidified that in my brain a little bit more. So I did want to make you aware of that as well. So then my next point is something that I didn't think of at all when I first bought this place. And in hindsight, it's really dumb of me to have not thought of this, and it's very simple. I didn't check if there were things that were broken or damaged or needed to be replaced, things that you wouldn't actually think of. So that is now my responsibility to pay for that, and I didn't check them when I bought the property, so I didn't know that they were already broken. So now that's my responsibility to pay for and fix. And it's one of those things that I could have probably, you know, negotiated a bit more with the price at the beginning if I'd known that those things weren't quite right. And it may or may not have worked, like I'll never know if that would have had an impact on how much I paid. But I think those are things to be aware of and things to check. You should just check everything. Make sure. I think I got a bit too excited at the thought that I finally found a place that I thought I could live in, and combined with the fact that I knew I was going to do it up, so I wasn't too fussed so much with the condition, because I knew I was getting it for a really good price, and I knew I was going to have to put money in to modernise it and make it livable for me. because it definitely needed a lot of work at the beginning, as you will have seen if you watched my empty flat tour at the start. So I did already know that there was money that I had to put into it to make it what it is today, but there are things that I kind of wish I'd checked at the beginning, and going into buying my next property I would 100% be checking things a bit more, just to make sure that I'm not essentially paying for broken things. Like, it's just a bit silly really, or just at least flagging that to the owner, so then you can kind of negotiate on pricing and things, because that stuff has to be factored in when you're buying a property. Like, if things are broken, then the price that they're trying to sell you it for, there should be a bit of leniency and negotiation involved in reducing that a bit to compensate for those things that you'll have to pay for later. So that's definitely something to consider, and something that I didn't really take that seriously at the beginning, because I just kind of took everything at face value. Like, I just looked around the rooms, saw things looked half decent, like there was nothing falling apart, so I thought great. But in hindsight, that's now headache on my head because I didn't check properly. And that's not to say that I wouldn't have bought it anyway, but sometimes when properties are significantly more expensive, like in the market today, property prices are crazy, so you're going to want to check every little thing to make sure that you have, if there is something broken or damaged, that you can use that as a way to negotiate the price a bit lower, because yeah, prices are kind of mad at the moment, so you're going to want to just have any reason that you can to lower the price, and things like that really do help. And it is something that you're going to have to pay for later if you have to replace something anyway, so you may as well find out up front so that you can do something about it and hopefully get yourself a better deal. Okay, so talking of renovations, my next point was that I hugely overestimated how quickly I could get this place renovated. Like, hugely overestimated it. I, even to this day, a year and a half later, have not completed everything that I wanted to do with this apartment, and it's only a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, it's such a small place, so can you imagine if I had a whole house? What I have done is the kitchen and bathroom renovation. They are complete, to which you will have seen on my channel. I've done 2 separate videos on me renovating those. The kitchen, my parents helped me do, and then for the bathroom, I actually got some builders in to sort that out for me. And those are all well and good, like they're sorted. I think for me, you'll see in those videos, it just took a lot longer than anticipated to even get those done in the beginning. And then on top of that, I have a 2nd bedroom, which I'm trying to make into a studio/office, and that is taking me a really long time just to organise. It's just a lot to think about, and maybe it's just me being someone that's really, like, I find it really hard to just make a decision when it comes to interior design and stick to it, because it's not my strong point. I have an idea of how I want things to look, but it's really hard to find things that are within my budget and affordable, and I think that's been the struggle for me, is realising how expensive furniture and designing like a home is, because that's just made the process very like sluggish and slow, because I have to buy things in stages because things are so expensive. So that's definitely something to consider if you're buying a property and you have all these ideas of how you want to renovate it or like just furnish it inside. Just make sure you've accounted for the cost to do that, because you'll quickly realise how much money you really need up front if you're going to try and do that all in one go. And it's totally fine if you have to do it in stages, like that's how I've done it, and it's taken me a little bit longer, but we are getting there. But it can get frustrating, and you just sometimes start to feel a bit demoralised that you're living in a place almost 2 years on and it's still nowhere near where you thought it would be. I thought I would be able to show you a fully fledged like flat tour of like how I'm living in it now, and I'm just nowhere near that stage of being able to do that, because there are so many gaps and missing pieces and things that I haven't completed yet. And this is 18 months on, so yeah, it's really frustrating. But I think if you just kind of prepare yourself for that in the beginning, it might be a bit easier to deal with, because I am like, yeah, it's hard to come to terms with when you're in the middle of it and just like, why isn't everything just done already? If you have the money, it's fine. I think it's the money that's the issue. Like, I have very tight budget, and obviously on one person's income, plus having to pay for the flat itself, because it's expensive. I don't earn millions of pounds, so I have to just like work with what I've got. If you're someone that has access to a bit more cash, then you're gonna find that process a lot easier. Because I also see a lot of people online kit out their places so quickly. Like, they'll start renting somewhere and instantly have all their furniture and everything ready to go. They'll just do one shop in Zara or something, and I just look at them like, well, that would be nice, but that's not me. That's not me, and that's okay. All I want to say is that's okay. Take your time. If you're someone that it's already been really hard for you to even afford to get a property in the first place, it's a huge achievement for you to have already done that. So don't be too hard on yourself that you're struggling to actually furnish it or like actually sort it out once you've got it, because things are expensive in this world, so expensive, and I feel the pressure sometimes to like have everything already sorted and everything looking picture perfect, and it's just not like that. That's not the reality. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Okay, so my last point that I wanted to mention in this video, I definitely wanted to end on a positive, because owning your own home, buying your first property, living alone, all these things are just incredible new experiences. And as someone in their like early 20s, well, in my mid 20s, late 20s now, but let's not talk about that. Yeah, just all these experiences are incredible. It's such a rewarding feeling just having somewhere that you can call your own, that you literally own it. You can do what you want with it. It's such a freeing, incredible feeling, and it's just the most rewarding thing in the world. So if you are someone that's looking to do that, go ahead and make it happen, because I know you can. It's definitely a difficult journey. There's definitely so many things to consider, and I've mentioned a few of them in this video already. There's definitely going to be a lot of hurdles. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, times where you just think that things aren't going to work out, but you keep the faith and you keep pushing and you just work your hardest to make it happen, and it will all work out in the end. And when it does, it's honestly the most incredible thing ever, because as a woman, as a brown South Asian woman, opportunities like this don't come around very often, unfortunately. And when they do, people tend to put you down a lot for it, for the fact that you've achieved something so incredible that anyone else would be celebrated for. For some reason, we get stick for doing it, and people look down on us for, you know, achieving such an incredible thing, such as owning your own home and living and being able to live by yourself. Like, the fact that you're able to financially sustain living alone and owning a property is an incredible achievement, and it's something worth celebrating. So if you're someone that's working towards that, keep the faith, keep going, keep yourself motivated. You will get through it. And if you've got people in your life that are trying to get in the way of you doing it or discourage you from doing it, with all due respect, if you're earning your own money and it's your own money going towards a property, then you are more than entitled, and you are within your rights to make that happen. I just hope that me sharing my tips has been able to help as much as possible. If you've not got people in your personal life that are helping you on the journey, I've been very lucky to have my parents by my side throughout the process, helping me sort everything out and kind of guiding me in the right direction. But I know there's a lot of girls out there that don't have that support, so I want to be that for you as much as I can. So any advice or tips or experiences that I can share with you that I've learned through my experience, then I will do that, and that is kind of what these videos are for. So I really hope you found them helpful. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover in terms of moving out, in terms of like the experience of buying your own property, the things you go through, the things to look out for, I've tried to cover as many as possible in this video without going on too long, but there's definitely more that I can discuss, so just let me know if you want me to do that. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know if you did in the comments below. Feel free to DM me on Instagram or comment below if you have any other ideas for videos or you have any questions. And yeah, with all that being said, you guys, I'll catch you in the next video.